Hello and welcome to News Round, a recap of stories that made headlines during the week. I'm Victor Matthias. First, the headlines. Appeal Court grants INEC's request to reconfigure the BVAS machine, also orders INEC to grant Bola Tinubu Peter Obi access to inspect electoral materials. Nigeria joins the world to mark 2023 International Women's Day as the Bank of Industry fosters conversations on equity. 6 dead and many others injured after a train rammed into a Lagos State government staff bus at a rail crossing in the Ikeja area of Lagos. Plus, several dead and injured in the church shooting in northern Germany. That's in Hamburg. That's News Round in View, but we begin the program with the decision of a 3-man panel of the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal sitting at the Court of Appeal in Abuja, granting the request of INEC to reconfigure the bimodal voter accreditation system, BVAS, it used for the February 25th presidential election. The court, in a unanimous decision by the panel led by Justice Joseph Ihie, also ordered INEC to allow the president-elect, Senator Bola Tinubu, and the candidate of the Labour Party, Mr. Peter Obi, access to sensitive materials used for the election.
The court's room is filled to capacity as the candidates of the Labour Party and some officials of the party walk into the Court of Appeal, venue of the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal, to witness proceedings of the day. After a 2-hour delay, the court delivered its ruling on the 3 applications before it. First, it's dismissed objections by the Labour Party and its presidential candidate, Mr. Peter Obi, seeking to restrain INEC from reconfiguring the bimodal voter accreditation system, BVAS, used for the presidential election. In dismissing the objections by Labour Party and Mr. Obi, the court held that the backup files on the server cannot be lost and that restraining INEC will affect the forthcoming governorship elections. In another ruling, the tribunal upheld its earlier order directing INEC to allow Mr. Obi and Labour Party to inspect all the electoral materials used in the conduct of the presidential election, as the tribunal assures the applicants that information contained on INEC's BVAS machines cannot be lost or tampered with. The tribunal, in another unanimous decision, ordered INEC to grant the president-elect, Senator Bola Tinubu, access to sensitive materials used for the presidential election. The 3-man panel, led by Justice Joseph Ihie, said it was satisfied that there was merit in Senator Tinubu's request to have access to the electoral materials to enable him defend his election. Although counsels to INEC and Senator Tinubu were not available for comment, the lawyer to Mr. Obi believes the ruling of the tribunal is a step in the right direction.
INEC filed an application seeking to vary those orders, particularly as it relates to the server, BVAS machine. Luckily for us today, the court refused to vary that order. That order is sustained and remains. In another ruling, the court was of the view that they are given the back-end server, which INEC undertook to provide to secure those materials, that order is partly sustained. Those initial orders are partly sustained. But in all, the good news is that the initial order of the court made on the 3rd of March, permitting Peter Gregory Obi and Labour Party to inspect the facilities of INEC, including the BVAS machine, which they intend to use to prove their petition, those orders are sustained.
As the tribunal prepares to commence sitting over the February 25 presidential election, the Labour Party and the All Progressives Congress are hopeful of victory.
Meanwhile, the Independent National Electoral Commission INEC has presented certificates of return to 101 senators who emerged winners in the February 25th National Assembly election. The current composition of the Senate has the ruling APC dominating the red chamber with 57 senators, closely followed by the PDP with 29.
Senators-elect and their supporters converge on the International Conference Center in Abuja as the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, presents certificates of return to the federal lawmakers.
We will call out senators-elect on geopolitical basis.
The electoral umpire announced the procedure for the event. Senators from each of the senatorial districts stepped forward to receive their certificates of return. As it stands, the 10th Senate currently draws its membership from 7 political parties, namely the APC, PDP, Labour Party, NNPP, SDP, APGA, and YPP.
Nigerians should expect a more robust 10th National Senate, simply because there are a lot of us members from the House of Representatives that have moved up into the Senate chamber now. So there would be more, how should I say, with all due respect to the 9th Senate, of course, but I think we would be more responsive to the yearnings of Nigerians.
New laws that will protect the life and property of our people, good governance, law that will check the executive for better governance, checks and balances, and better assembly than the 9th Senate.
Others believe that the emergence of the principal officers in the Senate will not be a problem, despite the current composition.
We have won elections, and it's no longer party issues anymore. We should be looking at governance, not just governance, but good governance that is cohesive and focused on the well-being of the people.
I want the 10th National Assembly to focus on the various problems facing the country, which the brunt is borne by the ordinary citizens of this country.
Elections have come and gone, and Nigerians look forward to the business of lawmaking, which will commence with the inauguration of the 10th National Assembly in June this year.
Still staying with the National Assembly, over 300 members-elect of the House of Representatives have also received their certificates of return from INEC in Abuja. Although the majority of them from 8 political parties are first-time legislators, they do not think their inexperience would adversely affect the quality of lawmaking and oversight functions.
Let's sit down, please.
Members-elect of the lower legislative chamber in Nigeria's National Assembly gather at the International Conference Center to receive their certificates of return from the electoral umpire, INEC.
Jallo Husseini Mohammed.
It was no easy run for these men and women from the build-up to the actual elections on February 25. Today, the contestations has ended in their constituencies, and they are here surrounded by family and friends. The 10th Assembly will come on board in June 2023, but it will be a much diverse assembly with more political parties making inroads into the federal legislature compared to the previous assemblies. 8 political parties, including the PDP, APC, Labour Party, and the NNPP, have won 326 seats out of the 360 seats in the lower chamber, making it one of the most diverse House of Representatives since 1999.
The quality of the legislation of an assembly is dependent on the all capacity that you have. Definitely, if there is no recycling of knowledge, it affects the performance of a parliament. But it doesn't mean that there won't be parliament. For us to have almost about 50 to 50-something members that are returning, I believe the reservoir of knowledge from those members that return back will be able to groom and train those newcomers that are coming on board. So there won't be any gap, there won't be any vacuum by the special grace of God.
I don't think the influx or the new intake
because some of them do not have a legislative experience, it will affect the performances of the 10th Assembly? No, I don't think so. Since they are here and they are ready to learn, they will follow up the process, and they are also going to be part of the process. And I'm sure that we are going to have a rebox 10th Assembly.
There is also a new breed of lawmakers coming into the Green Chamber who believe they have what it will take to make a difference when the 10th Assembly commences.
I know this is a bigger stage, but I think no one has the monopoly of knowledge. Anywhere you find yourself, you can key into the system.
Considering the fact that averagely Nigerians are very intelligent people, I expect us to have a very diverse and interesting 10th Assembly.
I've started politics since 1999 when I finished school. So I have been in the system for a long period of time. I was a local government chairman, so this is not a surprise for me.
So far, 326 seats out of the 360 seats in the House of Representatives have been filled with less than 2% female representation. Hopefully, that will change when INEC conducts supplementary elections in 33 federal constituencies to fill the remaining seats.
Still staying with politics, the rescheduling of the governorship and houses of assembly elections appear to be having more consequences than expected. And this time, the chairman of the National Population Commission, Mr. Nasser Kwara, says it could affect the date for the commencement of the 2023 National Housing and Population Census, earlier slated for March the 29th. The NPC chairman was speaking at a meeting with the resident representative of the United Nations Population Fund in Abuja.
This meeting is part of several others which are aimed at delivering a credible national population and housing census. The United Nations Population Fund is partnering with the National Population Commission to ensure a successful exercise. The agency provides high-capacity computers to support the post-enumeration survey.
Can we have it now? A lot of the support coming from UNFPA is by nature only catalytic. The price tag on a census like the one in Nigeria means that we will not in any shape or form be able to do this alone. We will, however, be able to provide the critical inputs, the technical inputs, and also what we are doing here today, the equipment needed to ensure that we do perform a proper post-enumeration survey.
The United Nations Population Fund is particular about the credibility of the census, seeing its significance to the Sustainable Development Goals.
Nigeria needs a good census, and therefore they also need a good post-enumeration survey. This census will be transformational for Nigeria. It is also fully digital and employ methodologies and technological innovations that guarantees the quality and timely results of the census, and it will be conducted up to international standards.
The census is scheduled to start on March the 29th, and the postponement of the state elections by a week could impact on the date for the exercise.
A way it may, because we have our timeline. But I am not in a position to say when until Mr. President himself approves. We are making recommendations to him. Over the years, UNFPA's partnership with MPC and support to Nigeria at large has been invaluable in propelling the vision and mission of the Commission forward in its bid to strive for demographic excellence, a successful and fully digital population and housing census 2023, and in turn, the post-enumeration survey.
The Population and Housing Census provides a platform for the government to get statistics that will aid its plans for national development.
Now, when News Round returns, Nigeria joins the world to mark 2023 International Women's Day as the Bank of Industry fosters conversations on everything. Stay with us. Welcome back. Now, Nigeria joined the rest of the world to celebrate the International Women's Day, and the Bank of Industry chose to give prominence to conversations that expose society's biases that foster stereotypes and limit women's expression in the public and private spheres.
The International Women's Day is observed annually to celebrate women's rights and inspire people across both genders to act in the ongoing fight for gender equality. In 2022, 5 gender equality bills that, among other things, sought affirmative action for women in governance and political representation and 35% appointed positions suffered a huge setback as they were rejected by a male-dominated National Assembly.
Honorable members.
The 2023 edition of the BOI's International Women's Day helped to amplify these issues through these exalted platforms of expression. Leading the charge on this year's theme, Embrace Equity, is the Director General of the World Trade Organization, Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, who argues that equal opportunity for women in the political space is smart economics.
We must embrace equity, not just because it is the moral thing to do, but because it is smart economics. Reducing gender inequality boosts economic growth and mitigates income inequality.
And to inspire hope in their womenfolk, young women chief executives during the first panel discussion shared the highs and lows of their success stories, especially about how they navigate society's gender bias.
I matured to an age where it was time to probably give me like my inheritance, and my uncles looked at me and said, as a girl child, you're not entitled to any inheritance. So even the ones that were supposed to come to my dad, if he didn't have a male child, he didn't have anything to pass on to me.
Imagine, if you can, a world of equity.
During the second session, moderated by media entrepreneur Kadare Ahmed, there are more profound thoughts on the need to pave the way for equity in all spheres of life, as the Vice Chairman, Channels Media Group, shares the stage with other leading female business pioneers.
I have taken a look at what I've gone through to reach where I was before I became an entrepreneur, and intentionally, deliberately make sure that the women folk in our organizations really have what it takes to own their own. And I deliberately also make sure that all the issues that affect women, like issues of procreation, when it comes to a certain stage, what do? Do you leave procreation, raising a family? Do you give it up? We encourage them, yes, we can give you time off, go and make your babies, and at an appropriate time, come back.
It took 10 years before they decided to invite women to participate in the stock exchange, stockbroking profession.
And now we have a lot of women who are stockbrokers.
Thank God, thank God, thank God. We have about 60 women now.
Part of Kaduna, where our factory is based, women historically don't have access to their own plots of land unless they're widows or unless they inherited land and didn't have brothers to whom that land was passed. So, one of the first steps for us in terms of empowerment and creating that middle class was trying to figure out how do we extend the opportunity of becoming a contract farmer that can be highly profitable beyond the men in the community to the women in the community.
Usually in my career in manufacturing and technology, I find myself as the only woman in the room, and it's something I'm used to and I'm extremely comfortable with, and it gives me great joy to see me prove to them that a woman can not only do this, but can win in doing it.
The Channels Media Group parades an array of phenomenal female staff who have over the years served the organization with excellence and dedication, some of whom are highlighted in this report. From the newsroom, Ronke Raji is a management staff who curiously joined the organization by chance after appearing on the 1999 Under-21 World Cup program as a guest analyst. Joke Rogers joined the company in the year 2000 as a youth copper and over the years rose through the ranks to head the presentation department. Maokpe Ogun Yusuf is one of Channels TV's leading news and programs presenters. She is known for her captivating presentation style. Away from the newsroom, Adiola Olumeyo is the Assistant General Counsel and Company Secretary who also heads the Legal and Compliance Department. It's not all talk, as the Women's Day celebration is spiced with performances from leading artists. From Lagos, Bukola Samuel Wemimo for Channels Television News.
Now, still in the spirit of the International Women's Day celebration, here is Okoli, a poem by Obi Ifejika in which she mirrors the life of an average Nigerian woman struggling to make ends meet.
Early as 5 a.m., Nkoli earns her living. The sizzle of stew and steam of rice sends an aroma down the street. Food is ready. She prepares 5 children for a public school, too emaciated for learning, but they go. Tread floors as high as their chests into block drains that holds their dreams still. Nkoli is barely standing under the weight of making ends meet. She clothes herself in 6 yards of empty promises, an envelope thin enough to blur the lines between hunger and hope, like 2 children she lost at birth. Better opportunities for the ones she'll feed till she dies. They are educated just enough to never get jobs, so the circle goes on. She stirs her dreams again and caters to your party, dear politician. In celebration of your victory, make this another delivery she doesn't have to mourn.
Well, to a rather disturbing story which happened in Lagos, where 6 people lost their lives after a train rammed into a bus conveying staff of the Lagos state government at the PWD bus stop in Ikeja. Now, 2 of the victims died at the scene of the accident, while 4 others died at the hospital. Many others were injured and were taken to the Lagos State Teaching Hospital for treatment.
An active scene of the deadly accident of Thursday morning. A train traveling on the narrow gauge on this corridor rammed into the staff bus of the Lagos state government, leaving 6 people dead. Many others were injured. Officials cleared the scene, moving the damaged bus off the rail track. No clear signaling system in sight, but the man entrusted with the responsibility of avoiding such collision says he did his best to stop the bus driver.
Before train reach this market, we must make sure that we stop all this. But this one is just coincidentally.
It just came out of
that we want to overtake.
Eyewitnesses also corroborate his account.
There was a shuttle bus that passed before the BRT, because that was what he saw before he crossed. Before he wanted, it was like, because the train was not very close to them. So it wasn't very close, it was like somewhere here, and he was there. So he felt maybe he could maneuver before the train could come close.
The scene is still busy amid the usual vehicular traffic on that corridor. We observe and caught on camera how crossings are managed at this particular intersection.
Train is coming, fast like this.
As emergency management officials clear the scene here in the Ikeja area of Lagos, more questions are being asked on the issue of safety on the rail corridor. Pedestrian and vehicular crossings at intersections in the metropolis where more rail lines are being built.
What we're trying to do is to eliminate the interaction between rail and vehicles, and that's why we're building overpasses. When you go to Ikeja, when you go to Yaba, you go to Oyinbo, and then Mushin, we have built 4. I think the Agege also, we've constructed Agege, and then we have 5 others which the federal government will build. I think they finished one, they've commissioned this one, and then there are others that they will build. So once the train is in full operation, you would not have this interaction between vehicles and rail.
This fatal vehicle train crash is the second in the space of 4 months across the country. In December 2022, a passenger train from Kaduna to Abuja killed a pedestrian on the rail track, raising more concerns about safety on the nation's rail corridor. Dari Ido, Channels Television News.
A news round ends in Germany, where several churchgoers are picking up the pieces after a gunman opened fire at a meeting in the northern German city of Hamburg. 7 people were killed and several others injured. Police say the gunman acted alone and that the reasons behind the shooting are still unclear.
Several people have been killed and seriously injured in a shooting at a Jehovah's Witness church in the northern German city of Hamburg. Police officers entered the building while emergency personnel ushered people away from the scene. Local media say residents in the northern Alsterdorf district of Hamburg had received warnings on their mobile phones of a life-threatening situation and that streets had been sealed off. Spokesperson of the Hamburg police, Holger Veren, says the perpetrator of the shooting could potentially be among the dead.
The police were called around 9:15 p.m. They were told that shots had been fired in this building. The police were relatively close by and then went into the building quite quickly. The officers who went in found people who may have been seriously injured by firearms, some of them fatally. The officers also heard the shots from the upper part of the building and went upstairs, where they also found a person. So far, we have no indications that any perpetrators fled. We now have to carry out the evaluation of the crime scene. At the moment, we have no clues about the victims. All we know is that several people have died here. Several people have also sustained various degrees of injuries, and they have been taken to hospitals.
This eyewitness narrates the incident, saying he heard about 12 continuous gunshots.
I know what gunshots sound like, and there were 12 continuous shots. I thought it was something at the construction site here, but then it's supposed to have been somehow at the petrol station or next door at the Jehovah's Witnesses. We took some pictures and saw people being taken away in black bags.
The mayor of Hamburg, Peter Schenscher, extended his deepest sympathy to the families of victims. He assured that forces are working at full speed to pursue perpetrators and clarify the background.
And that's News Round this week. So thank you very much for watching. I'm Victor Matthias.